Hello, hello. Welcome. Happy Friday if you're like me in Singapore or that side of the world, Australia maybe. Welcome back to building a real-time multiplayer game. So last week, if you tuned in, we actually looked at Kaboom. And maybe let me bring up my screen here. Maybe we can actually try this view. So it's just me today. So yeah, if anyone is here, let me know. Good morning. Maybe put something in the chat. We're live on YouTube. We're live on LinkedIn. If you post any comments, just let me know where you're tuning in from, and if it's morning, afternoon, or wherever you are. Alrighty. So this is where we're at. So we've built this with Kaboom on Replit. So Kaboom is a pretty nice JavaScript game programming library. So you can build some nice browser games. Have a look around. This is pretty cool. There's a playground there. You can look at different things, and yeah, you can. For example, this is kind of the collision example here. You can see kind of when we get there, and oh, sweet, Sean Moore about to meet up with Ant in San Francisco tonight. Yeah, nice. Say hi. Yeah, we definitely miss having Paul and Ant around to send them back home fast. Okay. Awesome. So we're building this multiplayer game, and for now, we can actually look at kind of what we have here. I can actually share. Maybe let me pin this, and then I think I can just share this URL. Is that it? And then you can have a look at it. Okay, sweet. So I think the comments only come through on YouTube. So maybe have a look at that. One second, let me just check if everything is actually up and running. Yeah, looks fine. Okay, so here we are. So this is what we have at the moment. We're setting up kind of our little beans here. So this is what we're doing here. We're loading our sprite, which is just this bean. Then we have a couple of colors. And actually what I learned recently is that with Kaboom, it's in the docs somewhere, there's actually some constants for colors. So we can do red, green, blue, yellow. So let's maybe actually try that. So we want to have a couple different colors: red, green, blue, yellow. No, sorry, it's a constant yellow. And then let's see if I give that save. Oh yeah, okay, now we have some green in there, some red, some blue, and we're just assigning those randomly. And here you can see on the collision. So that's what we're setting up here. You can see kind of for the amount of players we have, then we set up all our players. And then we're just doing this one here. So this is our specific player, and anytime they collide with another player, so this is kind of a tag we can assign here. So anytime they collide with another player, then we destroy the player that they collided with, and that is exactly what you see here. So as they, okay, so all our beans off screen now, but if you see this, maybe we reload this again. Yeah, there they are now. And now as we go about and we collide, they disappear. So now none of this is actually multiplayer at the moment, so no one can interact with this. And so this is exactly what we want to do today, and we want to use Supabase Realtime for it. So what we can do is actually we head over to Supabase, And I've already created a project here. So if you go to app.supabase.io, you can create a new project, spin it up. I've already created one here, and then I've already set up a table here that you can see, which has a bunch of data in it. But actually, let's go maybe from scratch, and let me delete that table. Sweet. And actually go into the SQL editor, and we can look at kind of how we're setting up that table. Maybe let me zoom in a little bit so you can see that better. And so basically, we just need a table to track kind of all of our players and their positions. And then we can look at kind of what is actually happening. So here for our table, we're just setting up kind of an identifier for them. So this is just kind of a big int. We're generating this as a primary key. And then, yeah, so this is kind of our, the UID is here. Okay, so this is our primary key. So sort of the number of the player. Then we're just having a created app timestamp, which we're setting to now, kind of in UTC time zone. And then we have a user ID. And so that's something where maybe in the future we'll actually have the user log in order to play. And this will also be what we kind of use for the leaderboard and kind of all these things. So that should be, for now we're not using it. So so for now we're not using it, but we're just keeping it here. So we're not specifying not null, because we actually want to allow it to be null. And then we just have our X and Y coordinates. And we're just gonna set them as a decimal with the random function. And so Postgres Random, so we can look at this. Postgres Random is Postgres SQL tutorial. Is this any good? Yeah, so what's pretty cool is we can use the random function to basically just randomly return a number between 0 and 1. And so basically this is kind of a percentage multiplier. And this is actually great for us because we can just use this random number, so our XY coordinates, and then multiply that with the width of our field and the height. So we have kind of the relative position, no matter sort of what your screen size is, we then have the relative position and can position them there. So let's see. So we just set up the XY as a decimal. And then we can also do kind of a color. You remember we set up this here. Where is it? Yeah, our colors array, and we're just having 1, 2, 3, 4 colors in there. And then let me just make sure. So actually, we probably don't want to do the +1 because we're in an array. So random will be from 0 to 1. And then we're flooring it. So that should be then a number between 0 and 3, which we can then just use as the index for our colors. So let's try that, give that a run. And so we have now success. And when we now go back into the table editor, we can see our players table here. And we can actually go ahead and create kind of a new row. And actually pretty much all of this is actually being randomly generated. So we can literally just say save. And so now we have a new player. They currently don't have a user ID, but then we have our created at timestamp, and you can see we have our XY coordinates just randomly set up. So they will be placed somewhere on the screen. And then we have our color index just at 0. And maybe we just insert another row. Give that a save. And now you can see, again, kind of our random placement. and then this. Okay, perfect. So what we basically now want to do is, rather than in our thing, what we're doing here is we're just kind of setting up all the players just kind of randomly in like this array. What we can do now is we can actually load the players, and maybe let's do this here. So actually load all our players from the database. And so in order to do that, we will need to connect to Supabase. And we can do this with JavaScript, which is pretty neat. So this is literally just client-side JavaScript. So we don't need any kind of build pipeline, anything. Supabase generates a Postgres API for you. Well, sorry, a REST API using Postgres. So Postgres is a great feature that kind of automatically spins up a REST API for us, and then we can use the Supabase client to just connect to our database. Okay, so let's do this. npm install save Supabase. So we'll need to do that. What we can do here in Replit is we can have packages. So we can say Supabase JS, and we can find that here. So that's Supabase JS. So let's just install this. So that is being installed now. And then, yeah, let's let that run through. I think that's now done. So we can go back. So that this was our, basically Replit did our kind of npm install, which is pretty nice. And then we can just import our Supabase client, our create client. So this is a pretty cool feature of Supabase as well. We probably don't promote this enough, but we actually auto-generate an API documentation for you with Postgres as well. And so we can just copy and paste happily away. So that's what we do here. We import our create client, and then let's just, we actually have our Supabase URL here, and then Supabase key. So what's important with the Supabase keys, there are a couple different keys with a couple different permissions. So let's actually just, we're initializing Kaboom, and then let's initialize Supabase. Let's do that. And yeah, so generally you should store your keys in environment variables. But here, so we have kind of different, we're just going to say Supabase anon key. So Supabase allows you to do a concept that's called a row level security policies, which is a really great concept within Postgres. Is basically like pre-filtering your data to only return the data that, based on kind of a security rule, is allowed to actually retrieve that data. So if we have a user in an authenticated context, they will only retrieve their own data, which means we can do all this stuff client side. We don't need any server if we don't want to. We don't need to have any server. We can do all of this client side, which also is great for like mobile applications. For mobile applications, you don't, oftentimes you don't have a server. You maybe have some cloud functions and triggers somewhere, but generally you don't have a server. So we can do all of this client side. So if we go to our settings, we have kind of our API settings here. So you can see here we have this anon key. So that's our public key. This can be in our source code, no worries at all. And that works with the row level security policies. But then be very careful with the service role. So this needs to be kept secret. That's also why it's hidden here, because it will bypass row level security. It's basically like an super admin key. Okay, so we're just gonna do this here, Supabase anon key, paste that in. So this is our public key, and then we can just set up our super, and maybe actually I just call it super to make it a bit, so I have to type a little bit less. And then we set it up with the Supabase URL and the Supabase anon key. Okay, sweet. So now we have this, we have our Supabase set up. And now we're basically saying, okay, we want to load all our players from the database rather than just, so what we've done here is just with this random function from Kaboom, set it up, but now we're actually going to do this with Supabase. And so again, we can go back to our API documentation. So this is specifically generated for our project. So we can see we have our players table here. We have our ID, we have our created ad, we have our XY coordinates, and all of that. So what we can actually do is we can select that data. So what we can do is we can do, let me just copy this, and this select basically just only gets a created ad timestamp, but we kind of want all the data. So let's actually do this data. So data as players. Let's do that. Not do that for now because we already have a variable called players up here. And then we just say super. And so super is our Supabase client. And I think actually also what you can see is like if you do this, yeah, so the Supabase client has kind of typing and all of that. So you can see sort of the documentation in here. It's even loaded into Replit, which is pretty nice. So you can say Supabase from, and then we just say our table was players, and then we can say select. I think one thing that's unfortunate is it doesn't seem to have the descriptions of the methods. So we have them documented in the client libraries as well. So that's pretty useful. Okay, select star. And now maybe as the first thing, we'll just do console log of our data, see what's going on there. Let's give that a save. And then, oh yeah, top level of 8 is not available. Well, maybe actually let's just go back to good old then instead of awaiting. Let's just do good old pure client-side JavaScript. Okay, so this is just a promise. On a promise, you can call a then, and then you can have your data. I think here, yeah, so we just have our data, and then we can run a function on top of our data, which also means we won't return the data. So we're just running in that then function. Let's do that. And so let's just do a console log of our data and see what's going on. Let's see if that is working. Sweet. Okay, and then, oh, so this is the console for, I think, the Node.js. So I'm not sure if we get a Replit. If anyone is very familiar with Replit, oh, Lua, hey, Supabase is awesome. Yeah, thanks. I think so too. It's pretty cool. Welcome, Lure, wherever you're streaming in from. Let me know. I hope you're having, if it's afternoon, some cold beverage maybe, or a coffee like me. Okay, sweet. And so I think we actually, let's just see if we open this up in a new tab. And then maybe give that a load here. And now we can see, okay, we got our data, and our data is an array with the 2 players that we created in our database. So if we can, if we go back, we can see here we have our players table. We currently just have 2 players in there. They don't have a user ID against them yet. And then we just generate kind of a bunch of random numbers. You can see maybe we insert another one. Again, ID is automatically generated, created app timestamp is defaults to now. The user ID, we just keep empty, and then you can see that the XY coordinates, we just do a random number via Postgres, and then we just do a random color with an index from 0 to 3. So that's what this does here. Give that a save. We don't need to put anything in, like we have that set up. And then we can just have another player in the game. Sweet. So if we reload this, have a look, we now get our data from Supabase and we have our 3 players. So now let's actually pop those 3 players onto the canvas. And there we are, ID, color. Okay, sweet. Let's do that. So we're just gonna, so data is our array. So we're just going to say, oh, and now we can actually do, we can do data as players, because we just then have a scoped variable in here and it doesn't interfere with our players. Although maybe we should not, maybe we should say DB players. So our players from our database, let's do that. And then we say DB players, and we can just map through them, and we get each of our, here, DB player, and what we want to do is for every of these players, we want to add them to the play field. So we can just do, yeah, literally, let's just take exactly this, players push, and instead of doing this randomly, we'll just do, we'll add the characters to the screen, and then here we'll need to, so this is like assign our player. So this is the player that will be, we're able to control with our mouse, because you can see here then for the player, we set up the collision detection, we set up the on key down, and then we move our player kind of across the screen. So that's what's happening here with the arrow keys. Okay, great. But now let's actually stream that data over the ether so we can play together. That's what we want to do. Okay, so we have our DB player. So now for, okay, we don't get any auto formatting. Let's see. I wonder if anyone knows Replit well, maybe we can like set up auto save format on save or something like that. But anyway, for now, so we're just pushing our DB players into our plays array. And what we now do is basically, instead of kind of the random position, we're going to, so you can see here, DB player is now this object. So we can say DB player.color.id, XY, kind of those coordinates. So what we want to do is we want to say they are at the position of, so I think we basically do, because we kind of have a percentage, we just have a decimal between 0 and 1. And so we just say our DB player, the X coordinate multiplied by the width of our screen. And then here we can do the same with the DB player Y coordinate multiplied by the height of the screen. And then no matter kind of the positioning or the size of our screen, you know, even if we have this on like a big TV, we actually get them positioned at the right place. And then the color, we have DB player dot color, and then we actually set maybe a player ID, and that we just set to DB player dot ID. Sweet. So, oh, hey, Wenbo, thanks. Keep up the good work. Well, you're doing all the work. So Wenbo is actually one of our engineers who's working on Supabase and Supabase multiplayer, a feature that we'll use later on. We'll get into that a little more, but let's just get our players on the screen for now. And so we can say player ID, DB player, and we just set them up like that. And I think that should actually potentially already be it. Okay, can I read properties of undefined? Oh yeah, so yeah, so we now have the problem here that we don't actually, because we have kind of this database waiting in here. And so by the time we get to this point, the player is actually not yet created. So maybe we just wrap this into a function so we don't get any errors. And we'll just call this function. Oh, I think we can do we'll let in the on click for everyone. We can set that up, and then we'll just call this. Maybe we'll just call this. We'll actually move this up into a function itself. We'll call this set up our player. So that's the player that will navigate ourselves. Function. We'll just say init player, maybe call it that, and then pop that in there. And then maybe we'll do, I really wish I had format on save, but we don't. So let's see. So we give this a save now. Okay, we should be retrieving our players here from the database, and then we should be popping them on the canvas. So that doesn't seem to be happening. So let's see what's happening. DB players.map. So maybe let's just console log out our DB player and have a look. I think we'll need to head over here, save. And then, oh, yes. Okay, if I could spell, that would be sweet. It's the button to the left of the refresh button for format. Oh, here, let's see if there's Alice is always super helpful. Thanks, Alice. It's good to see you. How are things? The button. Okay, it's the button to the left of the refresh button. Oh, this one. Oh, yes, format source code. Sweet. I wish they could just do form. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, either I have an error. Oh yeah, I mean, we remember I had an error in there. So I need to actually spell things correctly. Height. Give that a save. And now we see when our database players are loaded, we then paint them on the screen. Okay, let's see if that maybe fixes the formatting. Oh, no. Okay, not sure. Format source code doesn't really do anything. It seems to be the right button, Alistair, but not sure if it does what we wanted to do. Anyway, okay, cool. So now you can see we have, we have kind of this unfortunate case where they are sort of positioned just off screen. Yeah, okay. Oh, because their position was like 0.9, right? Something like that. Let's see, 0.99. So we probably need to fix that where we subtract the actual width of the bean or something like that. But anyway, that's fine for now. Okay, cool. And so now we have kind of all the players from the database on the canvas. That is great. And then basically what we maybe want to do is, so how do we call our init player? Maybe we can just present like a well, I think for now we could just do init player. So basically once our players have been loaded, so from the database, we have them loaded, DB. We've pushed all the players in. So maybe after this map here, we'll just we'll just init our player, and then we'll just call, for now, we'll just call init player, get that safe. And so what that means is once the players are loaded, we should now be able to, yep, there we are, control that one player, and whoop, sweet. But so the thing is now, if you load that page, you know, it wouldn't actually move the player on the screen. So we need to stream this data into via Realtime to kind of the other, the other. To all the other clients. So basically anyone who's kind of in the game should be getting the positions updated via Realtime. Okay, so let's do this. If we look at Supabase, so maybe we do, the first thing is we kind of listen to all the updates. So Supabase Realtime. So let's have a look. So we can do this on subscribe. So we can say, okay, my subscription is Supabase from kind of a specific table. Oh, this is maybe a bit, yeah, we probably should update the docs, because here you wouldn't actually do, can you do a star wildcard in the from? No, because the from is just, I think the from is just a table that we're listening to. Can we listen to all tables at the same time? That's a good question. If Wenbo is still there, maybe let us know. And then maybe it's actually intentional. But for now, we can just do maybe this thing here. So we'll just do, okay, we have in it our player, and then maybe just load all players from the database. Okay, we'll do that. And then what we'll do is, actually, maybe now, because we have a player ID, and then we can access the player ID. So actually, maybe we make players an object, and we give the player the, yes, yeah, let's do that. Okay, 1 second, bear with me. So, so this is now basically players. I think we need to call it 1, because in our database, if we go back to the database, our index starts with 1, and then we'll just do we load all the players rather than pushing them into the array. We'll just say players, and then we'll give them the ID of db player.id. So that way we can easily access them based on kind of the ID in the database to like stream the data. And then let's see if that was all set up correctly. Yeah, and then we get, okay, we get our player. Sweet. Okay. And so now what we want to do is we want to listen to all player changes. Let's do that. And again, we can do this here via our subscription. So we can say my subscription, and I called my Supabase client Super. Maybe I shouldn't have done that, but so Super subscriptions. So for all players, we listen to changes, and then we print out the payload of that specific change. And so if we give that save, and now maybe we head over here. So this is our loading of our players. And now we listen to changes to the player in the database. Now, the thing is that we don't currently have anything writing to the database on changes. So what we can do is just to test out that our streaming actually is working. We can update something in the database. So maybe we'll just update this position here to 0.5. And then we can see the payload. And we see we don't get any payload just yet because we actually need to set up something. So remind me, real-time. I think we actually need to enable it. Note, real-time is disabled by default for new projects. You can turn it on by managing replication. Okay, let's do that. Managing replication. Postgres sends database changes to Supabase real-time. Enabled. So go to database. Database, click on replication in the sidebar. Control which database. Okay, so database, replication. So we have Supabase real-time, insert, update, delete. So you can say kind of which events, and then tables, and you can see that currently it is not enabled for our players table. So let's enable it, switch that toggle, and that seems to be fine now. So now if we're going back to our table and to our players, and we actually update, maybe let's also update that to 0.5. And let's see what we got now. So now we got our change received. So we can see here, we get a timestamp. So this is kind of the replication stream from Supabase. So as changes are made in the database, we then have them being streamed out via the WebSocket. And so we can now see here, for old, we only kind of get the old ID. We can, I think, also expand this to like get the old record, but we kind of need to, I think if I remember, yeah, if you want to receive the previous data, you will need to set replica identity to full, so you can get kind of the full payload for the previous record instead of just getting the new record. But all we care about here is actually the payload.new, and we can see we get our new updated coordinates. So that's exactly what we want. And then what we can do is we can, so our payload, from our payload, we want new, we probably can't call it, because new is a reserved word in JavaScript, probably in many languages. So we can just say const real, let's call them real player equals payload dot new. And so now what we can do is for our player, so basically in our players with the real player dot ID, so we get the correct player, and then I think we can do player dot, I think we can just do position, right? So player dot position dot y, and so we do player dot position dot x equals real player dot x, and remember the x is just a decimal, so relative position on the screen. So we need to multiply that by the width, and then we need to do the same thing for the y coordinate. So let's do that. Players position dot y, and then for y we need the real player y, and then multiply it by the height. And now let me hopefully spell that correctly. Sweet. And so now, yeah, now we see we have the player positioned in the middle. And now maybe if we make some changes in the database and see how they move. So maybe we just move them up a little bit, 0.3, and I gotta be quick, so 1, 2, 3, 4. You can now see we got the payload change, and you can see that the player moved on the screen. So it is exactly doing what we wanted to be doing. That is pretty sweet. So 0.5, and gotta be quick. And now it's moved back. Okay, cool. So we're actually receiving the database changes in real time from our Supabase database. So that's pretty cool. So we have that part synced up. Now, the other part we need is we actually need to update the data in the database to then stream the real time down to us. And so let's do that part. So basically, here what we do is kind of anytime we move, we can actually see that we get the debug position here. So that's exactly what we want. Now, the only thing is, if you remember, this is a game. So we're actually updating things in 60 frames per second. So that is a lot. So we'll get into that because if you're updating things like 60 frames a second, it is not really a good idea to actually sync that to the database, because you're basically now making 60 requests to your database API. And, like, yes, we give you a lot of things for free, but also, we do pay for the infrastructure ourselves. And so please don't do this. And I'm going to show you a better way to do this in a bit. So first we're going to do it wrong, and then we're going to do it in a better way. Okay, so let's actually do this. So once we so this is here. This is our on update function, and this runs 60 times per second. So maybe let's actually do this. We'll just set up a counter real quick. Set it to 60, and then we'll do. We'll just do kind of. Basically, we'll just check if the counter, and we'll increment it. Well, we can increment it like before every check, right? So we'll do. Oh no, okay, we'll do. Sorry, the counter is 0 to begin with, and then we'll check that. Anytime we check the counter is less than 60, we basically, no, we'll just check that the counter is 60. Okay, then we should actually do the increment first. And when the counter is 60, then we're going to do 60, and we'll also say if the position has changed, maybe just, okay, so counter is 0, and then we do something like previous position equals, let's do this. So if, and then we'll do const current position equals, sorry, I'm just kind of 60 frames per second is a lot. So we'll just make sure we're not spamming. We're basically not doing a DDoS attack on Supabase. So and then we're checking basically that previous position is not equal to current position, or I mean, it doesn't make a difference, but I want to say that the current position is not equal to our current position, so that the position has actually changed, in fact. And then if that is the case, we want to set the counter back to 0, and then we'll set the previous position to our current position, and then we'll just, for now, console log out our player dot position, maybe. Okay, let's see if that is any good. And so basically now, if we're moving our player, then we should get this log. Okay, we're not getting it. I guess I'm doing something wrong. So I would want, let me see. What am I doing wrong? So counter is 0, and current position is not previous position. Maybe, okay, let me for now do this and see that my counter is at least working. So if I update this, yeah, okay, so my counter is working fine. So basically every second now, I'm getting a stream of my position. Okay, that's great, but then my current position, okay, that's where I have the flaw. So what did I say? Current position, which is, oh, maybe I have to do this. Set it up in here. No, that wouldn't make sense, because then it would always be there. Oh, but yeah, okay, because, okay, gee, what am I doing? Yeah, so I'm saying previous position is my toString, and then my current position is this player that pause. If anyone sees what I'm doing wrong, let me know. Equals current position. So my current position, oh, yeah, thanks. That will never be true. So my current position is not equal my previous position. Well, Thor, good morning. I probably need more coffee. Okay, so now if we reload this, basically only when we change our position, we should get a log. Okay, still not working. What am I? Jesus, what am I doing? And it's not equals to previous position. Did I just need some brackets, or do I need a new brain? Maybe. Okay, maybe I need a new brain. Oh, okay. So maybe let's just remove this for now, because we have our counter in there. Let's figure out the position stuff later. Okay. So is this working now? So this is working. Every second we're getting a stream of our position. Oh, come on, we can figure this out, no? Counter, so let previous position equals player dot position dot to string. Let's try that. And then we'll do a current position. Current position. So that's kind of on update. So new position, and then we'll say, so maybe we'll just check right now. We'll do if previous position equals current position. So are we then still getting current pos is not defined. Oh, is it really just that I need to learn how to spell? Maybe. Okay, so that's working. So basically we're saying now instead of equals, it's not equal. So now if we're not moving, nothing should be happening. But now if we're moving, still nothing happening. Oh, come on, brain. Oh, because we're not actually reset. This needs to be its own condition. The counter in itself needs to be left alone, and now we're checking separately. Okay, thank you, Brian. You are back. Sweet. So let's check that. So only if the position has changed. Let's see if the formatting thing works. I guess still doesn't work. And then we're setting the previous position to be equal to our current position. And we'll give that a save. And now, okay, let's see. So now if we move this, yeah. So if we move it, we get our updates. But if we keep still, we don't get anything. And that's exactly what we want. So as soon as we move, we get our changes. As soon as we stop, kind of like Squid Game, can build a game there. But let's stick with this game for now. And so what we're doing now is, anytime this happens, we want to update our database, and we can look into our API. So basically, if that is the case, then we want to update the position in our database for kind of the specific player. And what we, let's do that. So we can look into our API docs. And here, players, and we can now say, I think update. So update rows. This is how we do it. Supabase from players, update which column we want to update. And then very important for update, we need to specify an equals filter. So we need, otherwise what actually happens, we update all the rows. So don't do that. Do copy, do make sure you put in the equals, so the condition to actually know where to update. Actually, maybe it might be a good idea for us to require this to be set. because I think in most cases you don't actually want to update everything. Yeah, I think that might be a good idea. I should note that. Should note that down. And so what we can do now is and I called my Supabase client super. So I have to type less, but then the problem is I can't copy and paste. So that was an oversight on my part. Okay, from players, we want to update the X coordinate, and we want to update the Y coordinate. And then this is going to be our player dot position dot X. And now we need to divide it by the width to get back to our relative decimal. So the same here, player dot Y, player dot position dot Y, and divide that by our height. And then very important here, we need to do our condition where, so basically some column in our case where the ID equals, and I think it was just player dot player ID. Is that correct? I think that should be correct. So maybe here I should console log out the whole player object, and then have a look if that's correct. And yeah, we don't really care about the result of this unless it's an error, of course. But in this case, we'll basically just chug the update into the database, and then we have the streaming function down here. Here, the subscription, where we're actually streaming all the positions back into our canvas. So let's see if we refresh this, and then maybe we look at the network tab. So if we move now, okay, maybe we have an error. Do we have a player ID? I think we do. Yes. So we do have a player.player ID. And then do we have, oh, did I reload? Did I save? Okay, let's see. So we're logging the player from players. We want to update the X and the Y, where it equals, oh, and I think I might actually have to call the then. So I actually have to await the promise in order for the database request to actually be sent. So maybe let's just do console log then of the response. Let's see. That should do the trick. So now if we move our player, we see we update the player position, and we then stream it back into. Okay, so but now you see we're getting kind of this janking because we only update our database every second, but we're streaming the new position every second, but we're actually moving along 60 frames per second. So this is not feasible. But for now, what we can do is we can just in our where we're streaming the positions, listen to all player changes, and then we're updating our player. But maybe so we should check if so if we're if our player dot player ID equals the real player dot ID, then we'll just return. because then we don't want to update the position. And at least that should now get rid of the janking around. Let's save that. So now when we move along, we see, okay, player is not defined. Player is not defined. Why is player not defined? Yes, that makes sense. My player is not let player is not a global variable. So let's make it a global variable, and then we should be fine. So now let's give that a save. So now as I move around, I write the updates, stream them to the database, but I don't get the janking anymore. And now the cool thing is, basically, let's open this in a new tab and see if we're streaming. Okay, so now if everything is hooked up correctly, well, maybe. Oh, but the problem is that the player is always the same player. So we just ignored the updating if the player is the. So we actually need to basically create a new player when they are coming. Yes, everyone is player ID 1. Very good. Yes, Alistair, that is correct, because we're just doing this here. So rather than actually doing that, we probably we'll just insert. So to insert a player, we'll insert a new player into the database, and then we'll set them up. So what we can do is we can say here, so to insert a new player, we'll say create new player in database, and we can say super dot from so our players table, and then we can say insert. Is that correct? I think so. Yeah, insert. So we can look at the docs real quick if we have forgotten how to do this. Insert into. So we'll say oh no, so this is real time. Insert rows. Yes. So from players insert, and then we'll pass it an array of columns. Okay. So what we can do is we'll say insert an array, and then we'll just say we can say for now just user ID is null, like all the other values are default values, and then we'll say then and we should get our response. Okay, let me see. We should get our response, and then we can destructure it into data. And then what we can do is, so basically we need to do kind of the setting up of our new player in here. And so we'll say data. So we'll need to add a new player. So let me copy the code again for load all players from the database. So that's this one here. Add this whole thing. Okay. So players. So is now our data. Maybe we'll just say data as new player, just so we're not getting too confused. And then we're just saying new player ID new player.x, new player.y, new player.color, and then new player.id. And then also we'll need to grab kind of all of this shebang. We can only set up once our player is set up. So let's do exactly that. On update, yes, only if our, then we'll player, all of this. And that should be it. So let's take that and pop it into the then. So it needs to go in here. Boom. Okay, let's see. Ooh, boom, 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 boom. So we're editing our player. We're creating a new player. And then this one should be the players, the new player.id that we just created. Okay, let's see. Let's give that a save. Cannot read properties of undefined 122. 122, 27. Let me see. Yeah, when a new player joins. Yeah, that's very true. Doesn't exist. Yeah. Yeah, I probably should just add you to the stream, Alistair. Okay, let me see. So 122 on payload. But we've added the player to our didn't we add the new player to our oh yeah, okay, we need to reload this. But it's a new player. Yeah, that's okay. Jesus, I have a bit of a brain fart right now. So if I'm because I'm adding it in here, no, and then it should be available. Okay. Properties of undefined. Let's see. Yep. So basically, it's when our update fires, when our subscription fires, because we're entering a new player. Okay, so maybe we'll just do if we don't have the player, well, then we need to create it. Is that correct? But then we just create it above. Let's see if we just return for now. Cannot read properties of undefined. Okay, what's undefined? Let me see. 114. This is the fun. 114. What? Okay, so where's the on update? Player. We're setting player. Wait. Yeah, this is happening in here. So we're setting players, new player.id. Yeah, that should be right now. Okay, Alistair, do you see what's happening? Okay. Oh, okay, so maybe it's not fast enough, the return of, but it should be synchronous, right? So okay, so maybe we just say player equals add, and then we say players new player. Oh, maybe I got the whole new player thing wrong. Let me see, console log new player. Player. Okay, maybe that's where things are breaking. Oh yes, because new player is an array and that won't work. So always make sure you're checking what you're getting back as data. So insert, then so data, yeah, because you're inserting an array of columns. So data, so const new player. Okay, we're back on track. Equals data 0. Okay. Now we're in business, right? No, I guess it's still not. Let me see. Are we? Oh yeah, okay. We are indeed in business. Okay, cool. So now let's see this. I don't think anyone's left on the stream, but so for now, if I so I'm here, and then if I open a new window, so I'll need to set up, but so now Okay, let me see one sec. Okay, so is Alistair, is this you moving along, chugging along? Oh, yeah, come on. Come on. All right. Oh, yeah, come on. Yeah, so you see, we got a bunch of people moving around now. We'll just need to figure out, and we can chase each other. Ooh. Except for we're only updating every second. And so maybe if I post this in the chat now, let's see. I think unfortunately we'll only post to YouTube chat. But yeah, let's get some people in there and move around. Okay, I see some people moving. At least one person. Whoever is moving there, let me know. Come on to the YouTube and tell us. Okay, this is fun. This is fun. But so you can see how you know, we're streaming kind of all the changes through the database now. So we're actually inserting and updating, and that is actually not a very efficient way of doing things. And so what we're actually working on at Supabase, Wenbo and the team, is the actual multiplayer mode, which means rather than streaming the data to the database and then listening to the replication stream, we actually want, you know, we don't really care about the positions to be stored in the database. The only thing we care about is like anyone who's online at the moment. I've eaten all the beans on my screen. Yes, sorry. Then, then you'll need to reload, Alistair. Yeah, we'll definitely need to update some more game dynamics there. But so for now, what we can do is actually, and let me quickly look into my cheat sheet, is we can move over. And here, so I have a project set up where I have a real-time client, and you know, because we're still working out kind of how all of this exactly works. But so we're basically initiating our real-time client with kind of a WebSocket server, and we're using our Supabase add-on key. And so now when we're initting the player, we're still inserting kind of a new row into our database, and we're getting sort of the initial position from the random function from the database. And now actually, yes, so rather than writing, so this is what we've done before, where we've actually updated kind of the position going through the database. What we can do now is we set up our WebSocket, we connect to our WebSocket, and then we set up a channel where we stream things in real time over the WebSocket, but without actually going through the database. And so this is great for things like, you know, multiplayer, where, you know, kind of in our case, we don't actually care about the locations to be stored in the database. The only thing we actually care about, which we want in the database, is like the high scores, you know. So anytime someone eats someone, we then increment kind of the high score, and that's actually data we want to persist. But the actual position of a player doesn't really matter. Will we be able to use Phoenix presence as well? That's a good question. I can we can ask Wenbo. Yeah, I don't know out of I don't know this by heart. Yeah, we'll check with Wenbo. But so now that we have our channel set up, we're subscribing to our channel. So we just set up our channel here, multiplayer position. We can now in our on update, so this one here, we can actually do this 60 times per second now. It doesn't really matter because we're not going through the database. We're still checking, of course, in terms of performance, that the last position, is not equal to the same position. But then what we can do is we can just say here. So we can just say channel push the position, and we push that through the channel. We're still retrieving all the players from the database when we're actually setting up the game. But then now we're streaming all the players location from the database. Not anymore. We stopped this subscription here, and rather we're receiving the WebSocket events. So we're getting the channel. And I see Alistair has arrived in the game. So we're now streaming the positions at 60 frames per second. And yeah, let me actually maybe share this URL. And if you're online in the stream, come in and let's have a little play. So here we are, and now I'm getting asked, well, do I want to join the game? Okay, I do want to join the game. Here I am. Okay, who's here? Anyone's here? Yes, there we are. Okay, we have someone in. And now this is fairly smooth, 60 frames per second. Oh, he's chasing me. There we are. Woo. Anyone else? Okay, come on in. Have a little play. Let's see how the server behaves. And yeah, the game mechanics are still a bit janky. But so this is what we can look forward to. There we have someone playing. Do we have more than one person playing now? No. Yeah, the destroy mechanic is still so basically anyone you bump into on your screen just disappears. So at the end, it's just yourself left with, which is a bit annoying. So we'll need to fix that. But okay, we see some folks, and now we can play. Once again, all the beans have been eaten. Yes, Alistair, I do realize there is a bit. Oh, Leanne is saying I can't move. Lol. I think so what you have to do is you have to click into the screen until you see a kaboom, and then you should be able to move. The important thing is that when you load the page, you actually have to say okay to join the game, and then you will be placed. You have to wait a little bit, and then once this comes up, you will be placed, and you could get moving. Woo, sweet! All right, we got a bunch of folks chasing each other. This is fun. Yeah, we'll need to work out the collision. Oh, I'm loving this. Oh, this is great. Okay, dare bump into me. If you bump into me, you'll disappear from my screen. Oh yeah, and I realized when I initially coded this one, I set up the colors. Colors -1 here. Now we have the index correctly. Colors -1. Don't need that anymore. Okay, that should be it. Okay. And now I can just watch. Let me watch all the people. Okay. The beans were delicious, yes. Okay, anyone still here? Anyone moving around? Yeah, sweet. Okay, people are moving. This is fun, and I can look at that! Look at everyone go. I'm actually quite happy now that there aren't that many people in the live stream. Otherwise, who knows if Supabase would go down? No, I don't think so. This is nice. This is fun. Okay, maybe let's do one thing. Let's purge our database. Okay, 1 second. Everyone on the live stream, 1 second. We're going to purge the database, and then we're all going to reload. Okay, let's delete. Okay, and now let's go back and reload, and then all the beans on the screen should be all right. Wait, I lost my bean. Where's my bean? Come back. Where's everyone? Okay, I think I still have some issues in there. Okay, sweet. We got some people moving about. I think if you bump into myself, so if you bump into this guy here, then you'll disappear on my screen because the destroy mechanics. Try bumping into me. Anyone dare bump into my red bean there. This is so cool to see though. Okay. Yeah. So you see when you bump into this. So we'll need to figure out the mechanics of that. But okay, this is fun. I think we'll stop at this point, and then maybe next week we can actually figure out the proper game dynamics and like implementing. I dare you to bump the God of Thunder. Yes. And then we can actually implement maybe the leaderboard, and maybe actually get this out into the world, and then we can do like a big happening. Oh, maybe we can. Oh, maybe for launch week we should build an open source version of GatherTown. What is it called? GatherTown. Does everyone know GatherTown? No, but I mean, for certain, we should play this for launch week with everyone once we have it, like, and then we could see. Yeah, I like that. Okay, but now my brain is fried. So I'm gonna bow out. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Thanks for working through this. And this was a little sneak peek of the Supabase multiplayer that's to come. So in the end, that's just kind of a WebSocket server to allow you streaming of real-time things, where previously you wouldn't do that through the database. If you remember, I kind of first started out actually writing all the updates to this database. So this was, this part here, updating, but that means, we're going through the database, we're like clogging up our database, which for this part we don't actually want. We just really want to stream this between anyone who's actually playing at the moment. And then what we actually want to persist in the database is our leaderboard statistics and all of that. And so we'll figure that out next week, how we're going to do that. Probably with, so this part we'll need to do kind of the collision data to the database and all of that. But yeah, for now, maybe let me actually, so this is kind of the state that I had in here. Let me maybe copy that over to this one. Yeah, so one thing that we didn't have implemented here was the scaling of all the beans. So that's something that I've implemented. So basically, if you have like a really small screen, then you had an advantage of like making this the screen like a different size, and then you'd be faster, because your position is kind of relative. But so now with kind of the making the size of the bean actually relative to the size of the screen, basically now everyone should be relative to each other. Sweet. Okay. Yeah, so that's it. that's all we have time for today. Thanks so much for anyone who tuned in, and yeah, thanks for playing, and hopefully next week we can get all the statistics built in, and we can actually then maybe do like a background sprites or kind of any kind of stuff. But this is really fun already. Nice. Okay, let me try and catch you. There. Gotcha. Whoever that was. Anyone? Okay, thanks, folks, and have a great Friday or Thursday night, wherever you are in the world. And I will see you all streaming in real time, multiplayer mode, Replit. So many inceptions of things happening here. But yes, thanks. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend, and see you next time. Bye-bye.